RPAZ Treasures presents. Today, we head up to Meadview, Arizona to check out some claims and old mines.
Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed? Switches how you see things, realize something needs change. Cause I know you got me fucked up, let me show you what's up. Cause enough is enough. I'll take a face full of pavement just to make a statement. I know there's no turning back. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that. I'll play it on your face to make you go take it back. I'll lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad. And now you go wish you would shut the fuck up real bad. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. I don't fucking take smoke, I'ma poke a hole through you, choking's overdue. Come at me and you won't get any older, dude. Crack your holder too. Heating up inside of me, blood so violently. Thanks for trying me. Now it's finally time to see how this rivalry becomes a dynasty. I know there's no turning back. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that. I'll play it on your face to make you go take it back. I'll lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad. And now you go wish you would shut the fuck up real bad. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back.
Today, we're gonna do a little dry washing on Golden Vinicius claim that I'm part of. We had a backhoe out here. We're gonna do some dry washing and see what we can get. got it. Hopefully we find some pay dirt.
A pan or a little dry washer, but I'm too thick-headed to give up. So I went through a good portion of those 20 some odd years of, making a living with the skin of my teeth and scratching my fingernails in the dirt. But about 2 or 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to get some private property and build my own placer operation. So some of you guys might have seen that show, Freddie and Juan's Mine Rescue. They came out and helped me a little bit because I was depleted, is putting it lightly. And I've basically been doing that ever since. So I got a big dry plant that I built and a 30,000 pound excavator that I actually traded some work for. So that's a good way to survive if you're trying to make a living with mining and trading. You know, work for something that it's a good way to get things that you otherwise can't afford. Um, and if you need to know more about that, I'm your guy. So a little bit of my history. Again, I've done everything from dredging, panning, dry washing. There's benefits to it all for sure. Um, so, well, $5,000 an ounce, that's great. When I first started, it was $600 an ounce. 600 bucks an ounce, and it went quickly to 800, and within a couple of years, it was around 1,000 or 1,200.
That was '80, the big recession, and gold went $40 an ounce, $800.
Yeah, yeah,
Which changes the dynamics of a lot of mines. That's how I got most active geologists. When you never get everything out. It's how much does it cost to get it? So when they decide that gold goes up price, some of these mines that have been dormant for decades can be viable, but they need as they on that stuff. That was my main involvement. But at $5,000 an ounce, that changes your motivation. I'm not really interested in gold. There's rocks that are more valuable than gold, especially with the internet. I can reach out to people all over the world now, Czechoslovakia, Australia. Whereas before the internet, well, if you collect rocks, now it's so gold to me is too much time and effort. When I can just bend over and pick something up and sell it for $15.
sure. So I had to pay
The gold that you your rock.
a couple of things on that. That's two very astute points. Number one is the viability of mines now versus prior. There's a good point in there too, and something that maybe some of you guys haven't really thought about or knew. The big mines, you guys wouldn't be able to make any kind of money with this kind of equipment in most of that type of material. In most of the big mines process.
They're not miners.
So, sure, but the reason being is the Earth provides us the value that we're after. Okay, and the value that we're after with these small equipment, we have to go after the very high grade material to make it worthwhile. So that we go, oh wow, I made a quarter gram today, or I made a half gram today, or I made a gram today, or whatever that number is. And some of those numbers are pretty good. I know when I first started, it took me probably 2 years to get my first gram. So it takes a long time sometimes to do that. But when we're in a good spot, we can make money with this small equipment. However, the amount of that high grade material is very limited. Meaning, if you get in a good streak, say in one of these washes, even if it's a mile long, that streak might only be 6 or 8 inches wide in that wash. And it may only go for 10 or 15 feet and then cut and then change. So you might only have a total of, say, 10 yards of good paying material in a half-mile wash. That's 10 yards of good paying material that you can make as a dry washer. You get out of that zone, and you're not going to be able to make any, you won't get as good a gold. So the big mines, now let's say you're at a gram per yard. or 2 grams per yard. That's really good value for hand digging. The big companies would not, even if it's the half gram per yard, they wouldn't even be interested in it because there's only 10 yards of it. So let's say, oh wow, it's 5 ounces per yard. Well, if you only got 2 yards, why bring a bunch of equipment in and mine 2 yards? So my point being is the big guys need volume. Volume is the key for the big operations.
They're going after atoms.
They're going after very small percentage of gold, like a gram per ton or a half a gram per ton. The Carlin Trend in Nevada, I think, only runs like a gram per ton. But there's millions and millions, probably hundreds of millions of those tons. So imagine if you're a big mining company and you can make $160 a ton, but you're running, say, 10,000 tons a day. Well, now the economics of that is very viable. Yeah, where we would, if we were chasing, a gram per ton in this kind of stuff, that's ridiculous. Now, there's also another stipulation I want to make there. Hard rock, the terminology as far as the grade is usually per ton, which is by weight. In placer, when you're digging in dirt, it's usually by the yard. That's by volume. It's easy to look on the ground and go 3 foot by 3 foot and 3 feet deep. That's 1 yard. A ton is a little harder to deal with, but when you're underground, that's why it's by weight. It's just a little bit easier to do it. And so that's the terminology. 1 yard of good placer material could weigh as much as 7 tons. And placer material obviously runs different grade than hard rock. So if you're in a gram per yard, that's like fractions of a gram per ton. Does that make sense to everybody? So that was a good point as far as the grades. But I wanted to make that separation. We're after the high grade, low volume. They're after the high volume, low grade. And then pretty rocks. I spent a lot of time looking at sluice boxes. Oh, look at that and look at that. And spent a lot of time collecting those pretty rocks, and I still have every one of them. And I think I've maybe made a few bucks in some rock shows that I sold some pretty rocks and stuff. But I made a lot of money with gold. So I had to break myself with the habit of looking at pretty rocks and just go after the gold. And one of the things I was telling somebody, and probably the best advice I could give you guys is when you're out digging, the key is volume. Again, you're after high grade, low volume deposits, but you want to try to run as much volume as you can. So if you've got a pan, speed pan, dump your cons in a bucket. If you've got a dry washer, put as much dirt as you can in that thing, and don't spend so much time cleaning it out, looking at the pretty rocks. I guarantee you'll get more gold. Whatever machinery you're using, metal detectors, the more ground you swing that thing over, the better chance you'll have gold. So the key 110% is volume, whether it's volume of material you're swinging over or volume of material you're pushing through a piece of equipment. So I guess I'll stop at that and answer questions.
Where's your mine at?
My mine is right down the road. It's just right over there. I got 180 acres of private property. I don't know how it happened, but the stars aligned, and I guess I was in God's good graces. And I'm eternally grateful for that. So
You open it up for people to come play on?
I haven't done that yet, but maybe I'm just waiting for somebody to twist my arm or something. I don't know. Or the right price. Yeah.
In the old days, the people who made the money
Yeah,
were the
sold
saloon
the picks
owners.
in the shovels.
The big shovels, the saloon owners, they made the money.
And the mine owner.
Who's the mine owner?
What episode were you on?
It was season 4, episode 2.
Okay.
It was called Grand Canyon Gold Gambles. Was my episode.
Nice.
So, I think they did a pretty good job. Actually, I wanted them to portray the more realities of mining because a lot of the TV shows I think are kind of, they show just in many cases kind of dipshits, pardon my terminology, or idiots just kind of out playing with equipment and just a disaster, and so, or they show somebody just cleaning up like it's just easy, So I kind of wanted to show the realities of stuff, and I really wanted to make a point of how hard it can be, and the struggle that you actually do have to go through in many cases if you're trying to do something by the skin of your teeth or by your own bootstraps, you know.
Yeah.
And I did that. I mean, I won't go into too much detail. I don't want to have tears coming down my face, but you know, it's tough, you know, especially when life is part of everything, and you have a goal and a dream that is your only ticket that you see kind of out of poverty in reality. I mean, that was my story. I was impoverished, you know, and you know, jobs. Even if you get a good job, they close down, and now you have your good job's gone, and then now you're left, oh crap, holding the bag. And that was the story of my life, you know, always good opportunities, and then boom. So I realized I needed to, I had to have the bull by the horns, you know, and being able to do that was an impossibility with where I was at as far as financial. So that's why I mentioned by the grace of God, like I couldn't afford my property. There was no way I could afford my property. I got given a travel trailer, literally given a travel trailer, just to take it off the guy's property. Had title and everything, and I was able to sell it for $10,000 to finish my down payment on my property.
Nice.
Like it was just, and it was perfect timing. So I'm a firm believer in there's forces that work that we don't see, and I firmly believe that. But yeah, it was a decent episode. And I wanted to show that when you do, when you are persistent, and you have a goal in mind, and you don't let the distractions get the better of you, that good things can happen. And I thought that would be a real powerful message to put on the TV waves. And I think they maybe did that a little bit. They did put that into the story slightly. But I thought that'd be a pretty cool way to go. But
That's not what story you told me.
well, now the reality of the filming and the experience, that's a little bit of a different story.
Mining, so
Okay.
because you see or hear about caliche, but is it in it or above it or below?
Can I interject here just a second? It's further throw away. Caliche is like fingernail chocolate. It's not caliche. It's calcrete. The reason I say is, as a scientist, you gotta be able to communicate with other scientists. So if I go to a convention of scientists and I meet a guy from Chile and I tell him about our caliche column, he's gonna think I'm talking about sodium nitrate. I'm talking about calcium carbonate. So it's proper term. Rewrite the textbooks. Somebody misused the word, assuming that all such deposits are caliche. It's not a general name; it's a specific name. So you see the confusion. So every time I hear the word caliche, but rewrite the textbooks, re-educate generations of students. I can only reach a couple people at a time. But
It's like some people call this a dry washer. In other parts of the world, it's a blow box.
Or shaker box.
Or a shaker box. So terminology sometimes is different regionally. Sometimes it's different comprehensionally, and sometimes it's different.
that's
literally.
why everything has binominal names. Creosote bush. Well, that could have a dozen different names. Larry had tried in Canada.
Yeah.
There's only one plant. So that's my stick.
I can tell you on the other side of the hill, in my claim, there's a lot of caliche. And you guys will see
And you're
that.
full of it, right?
Yeah.
The old timers, they straight down to get to the caliche trail. That's where the gold is at.
So I kind of like his terminology because I have a different understanding of the caliche. We'll use caliche because you'll know what we're talking about. What did you say? You said
Calcrete.
calcrete. Okay. Because to me, caliche was formed the exact same way as concrete.
It was.
All right. So we're gonna have to talk about that because a lot of geologists will argue with me. But the way concrete is made is when there's lime, like lime substance in a rock or something, and then it's heated. That it does something to it, and then when it's wet, it'll solidify, and that's how you make concrete. So if you have layers of creek material or big river material, right, that have lime in it, or let's say it was underneath the sea that has lots of sea creatures falling on it, that has lots of lime, lime content, shells and stuff like that. Then that lime gets heated. There's evidence of that. There's volcanic stuff all over the place, right? So that gets heated from underneath or whatever, and turns the lime to concrete, gets wet, and that's concrete. But now it's in place with all the river gravels and everything in it, you know? So that's my philosophy. Geologists will say different, but I think geology is a fantastic practice because so many things can apply to the same situation. There's a
When
lot.
the prospectors came out here, they learned quickly to recognize field uh, suggestions. I'm going to prospect that mountain, then got mineralization. I'm going to prospect that. Learning the geology base, you can eliminate a lot of time and effort, not wasting your time in an area where low likelihood of finding whatever you're looking for. Lead, zinc, copper, whatever. I'm not going to look for lead, zinc, copper unless there's a plutonic intrusion around here because you need the water from the magma to concentrate that stuff. That's nature's way of concentrating it so it becomes valuable to you. If you're going after atoms and tons of rock, that's worthless unless you own billions of acres of land like we have these big mines today. So geology comes in important is knowing why am I going to look here versus over there.
Well, no, that's true.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the old timers, like, so people would say, why did they hike to the top of that mountain to dig a shaft? I mean, they were looking for
They were down here.
contact zones and, different things like that. That's basic, but when you get into that heavy, type of stuff,
General rules of thumb can bite you in the butt, and they've bitten me in my butt. Meaning, when you look at certain signs and you've been in areas where gold is in this particular type of dirt, if you don't understand that there's other dirt that gold can be in, then if you look for that same kind of dirt in another area, you may be walking right past where the gold is. Perfect example. I'm sure some of you guys have been down in Picacho. Anybody know the Picachos?
Tucson.
No, by Wickenburg. You got the red Picacho and the white Picacho. It's kind of by San Domingo area.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's east of that. But the Picachos, there's one area that the gold is in the red dirt and not in the white dirt. There's another area of the same Picacho area where the gold's in the white dirt and not in the red, and it switches on you. So it's very important to educate yourself on indicators, but not box yourself in by them, if that makes sense. There's no rule that there is not an exception to in gold mining. Unequivocally, there is not one single rule that there's not an exception to. The whole board. There's gold I'll show you that'll go right out of a sluice box that's big because it has so much surface area it won't get caught. There's gold that will get picked up by magnet. Gold's not magnetic, right? But I'll show you gold that gets picked up by magnet. So again, there is not a single rule that doesn't have an exception to it when it comes to gold mining. Where you want to look are places that you would think that heavy material would settle. So visually, bigger rocks, bigger cobbles on the surface is a good indicator visually on the surface. Yeah, that changes in Arizona a lot of times though. But yeah, visually, out here, red dirt is a good visual indicator. But again, not the rule. But big rocks and red dirt would be what I would say you want to look for out in this area. If you come across an area that has real red dirt, but the rocks inside of it are stained white, that's a really good indicator. Again, red dirt with white stained rocks. All the rocks in it will be stained white. They'll all be different rocks, but again, they'll have a white kind of like calcification around them. Yeah. And so that's a good indicator. But I'd say the best is bigger rocks. If you look in an area and you go, okay, there's little cobbles here, but right here there's some big rock. All right, that would be where you want to swing your detectors, where there's some bigger rock. Again, a visual indicator of where it dropped out. But again, that's not to say you go over here where there's some sand and a foot underneath the sand is big cobbles, you know, and that sand just kind of filled something in. So again, there's no rule that doesn't have an exception to it.
The same if you're prospecting with a dry washer, then they look for the big rocks, move them out of the way.
Move them out of the way, yeah. The big rocks equal bigger gold.
Right.
That's just kind of how. If you're in sand, you're probably the best you're gonna maybe get is fine dust, you know. But bottoms of washes, if you're dry washing, bottoms of wash is a natural collection. Everything that eroded above it, it's gonna settle down in there. You know, little pockets along that bedrock. Out here, you're probably not gonna get to bedrock. You're gonna be on, what's it called? Calcrete. You're gonna be on
You
calcrete.
can say caliche as long as you
Yeah,
understand
no,
it.
but I like that term. That's why I want to know it again. So you're gonna more than likely be on calcrete or caliche, and that acts as a false bedrock out here. It is absolutely rock hard. There's nothing that will penetrate it.
That's why we don't have basements out here. Swimming pools.
Yeah.
Too expensive. Black fluid.
There's probably gold in that caliche though, in the layers. In fact, I know there is, because when those layers were deposited, they brought gold with it. So in those layers of caliche, there is some gold. If you get something with the metal detector and you hit that stuff, you better be prepared to chip away though, because it's hard. So does that help you a little bit? Rocks and red
Hey, so
dirt.
you mentioned rocks, and then what about the black sands?
Black sands too. That's a visual indicator of where the heavy stuff is collected. It's hell undetected.
I mean, fine black sand compared to chunky black sand.
Yeah, if it's big, that's a good point actually. Those big iron stones that you can find. I found a bunch of them in one of these washes over here. Big, huge iron stones, and that's like real coarse black sand, and that's a good indicator there might be some gold there. Just because it's a big, heavy piece, and especially if you can see it, it's on the surface, the deeper could be gold.
So isn't it true gold and black sands tend to run together? And if it's fine black sand, it's fine gold, and then chunky black sand, it's chunky gold. As they say, gold rides the iron horse.
Yeah,
Run
that's
together.
Yeah, sure.
So if you're in a wash and you're finding fine black sand, chances are you're gonna find fine gold.
Yeah.
You're just finding chunky black sand.
As soon as the stream slows down, it starts to drop in sediment. Anything heavier would be washing along the flash flood or faster moving water. So with the black sand, which is magnetite, it's heavy. So if it's heavy, any gold is going to be with it because they're low high density. That's why magnetite, black sand, that's your best indicator. You're finding black sand, it doesn't guarantee you find gold, but it increases
Where it's concentrated.
your likelihood. Because nature has already concentrated the black sand, concentrated but the chunks of, you know, it has, it's, we need fast moving water. It's not concentrated until it gets pounded up.
What's the saying about the black sands?
That's your best.
No, I meant, wherever you find black sands,
That's your best.
It's
There's
just
no
where-
guarantee, but that's your best.
right, wherever you find black sand, you'll find gold. Wherever you find gold, you'll find black sand.
Yeah.
But wherever you find black sand, you won't always find gold.
That's the same thing with the trumpet plants. Anybody seen those trumpet plants?
Yeah.
Everywhere I have been that I have gotten gold, I've seen trumpet plants.
What's that?
110%. Now
I'll show you
that's
them
not
over
to
the other
say.
side over there.
Yeah, now that's not to say that everywhere where there's trumpet plants there's gold, but everywhere where I've gotten gold there's been trumpet plants.
I'm swung my ass off. I don't even get to around.
But it
I
does.
never
But,
got
but
nothing.
see, it does. But see, it might be small.
I
It might be
know.
small gold.
I know.
So, if there is any other questions, I've happily taken.
Yeah, once we
The waterfall, they'll pocket the gold.
not in that, maybe other places, but not in that like.
Look at the outcropping. Wow.
That's why you put the girls in the way. We didn't find those. Somebody else might need to drive this home, but we didn't find no beer.
Found an empty cooler.
Nice little prospect. Nice little prospect out in Meadview. Old Timers Hole. Hill. Trying not to kill myself.
I didn't see them tangled at any point.
Let's get it. Out here prospecting.
Yeah,
Checking it out.
send it. We're gonna find something.
Had a baby. We need some of that shiny.
Yes, we do. There's
Started looking at the quartz here. I didn't realize that quartz was that big.
yeah, it kind of feels like the vein disappeared there, like it's only on the outside.
Yeah. Just seeing it.
Were those just miners, you think?
Yeah, there's another one right there. Yeah, right there.
So nice. I told her, the wife says, I can only imagine trying to wagon and horse thing there. Yeah, and they were all convertibles. So no roof, no AC.
Well, they probably had parts to like that. Or they had pieces of